Hi, everybody. Welcome to Well Said. I'm going to read a little something real quick because we need to make sure everybody's in good seats and good, what is the word? What is the word I'm looking for? Good compliance. We're using this for good compliance. Okay.
This material was created for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as ERISA, tax, legal, or investment advice. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification and asset allocation do not protect against market risk.
Everyone, welcome back to Well Said. I have a funny, silly, goofy goober next to me, right? Hi, Jordan.
Hey.
He already is mad at me. We were bickering before this, if you want the honest truth, so I'm just bugging him a little bit more. And then we also have someone here who is a financial advisor, and I'm very excited for this episode because financial health is relationship health, and I truly believe that. And these are things that I wish I would have known, things like merging finances and things you should just know in general about finances that I didn't know prior to, honestly, meeting you and having a financial advisor whatsoever. And then the easiest way to save money, all of those things. And honestly, finances are not easy solo, but they're definitely not easier as a couple. And I asked my audience, you guys on Well Said, like, what did you wish you knew more about? And there's a ton in this meat of this episode, but a lot of people wrote in about credit cards and debt, how to budget and track finances, how to even start saving for a house, saving accounts, tools, stocks, which we won't talk about today, but I wanted to call it out because it's when and how do I invest is what we're going to talk about. And then how to find a good advisor, help with student loans, and where do you even start in your 20s? Because 99.9% of you who wrote in said that they feel like they're behind, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, however old you were that wrote in. We are here to help you, but first let me introduce Ryan, who is over here on the other side of the mic. He's in my fuzzy chair, my office chair, because I usually have two on the mic and then we got three today. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you.
He's our real life financial advisor.
And our friend.
Which is so
first.
fun.
Yeah.
Friend first, then financial advisor. And his wife is the cutest little peanut I've ever seen. And he has three cutest little peanuts ever. But Ryan, all girls. I know you're a girl dad, girl boss dad. Can you give a little intro of who you are? And I know we gave the disclaimer in the beginning, but maybe you just brush over that real quick of what you're going to talk about.
So went to the University of Minnesota and graduated in 2008, went directly into what I do now, which is financial planning, asset management, and wealth planner. So my specialty is comprehensive financial planning. I actually got my licenses the day that Lehman Brothers failed.
Oh.
And so I saw the stock market drop like 200 points when I was eating breakfast, getting ready to take my Series 7. So that was an interesting day.
What a uplifter.
So what is that? 16 years now, something like that. So
2009, right? I'd imagine. 2009? 2008?
It was September of 08.
I love that.
It bottomed in March of 09.
A lot of people have trauma from like 08, 09. A lot of
it was the recession.
Families, parents like lost their jobs or
When you first said that, I had no idea.
I came into the job market that year and it was...
Yeah, in layman's terms, like if a normal person would have said that, they just would have said the stock market crash of 2008. But
I'm not going to lie, I didn't know what layman term was in the beginning. Or sorry, what you said at first. What did you even call it? What'd you call it?
The Great Financial Crisis?
No, before that, you called it something.
Lehman Brothers.
Yeah, and I said layman terms, which is something different.
I know. I'm like, wait,
confusing.
Now you're a guy. Okay,
confusing.
all right.
Somebody that would have said it in normal terms would have just said the 2008 financial crash.
Well, but he's not normal. He's smart.
I know he's not. He's very smart. Yes. So basically, you started your job on like the worst possible day to start your job.
Yeah, it was trial by fire, but it weeded out a lot of people. And
I'm sure it did. And do you love your job?
I do.
Yeah.
I wake up every day is different. I get to help people. It's very rewarding to just help people get on the right track. And I happen to be pretty okay at it. So.
And it feels good. You help people feel good. Honestly, you help me feel good. You help my mom, Jordan's honestly, we have a ton of people in the fam that are in your practice, but we're here to help people figure out financial help. And I know that you can't give a ton of like specifics, but you're going to share a lot of information. And a ton of this, like when I first met you, we sat down and talked about like, I came into, let's just say, financial advising support with quite a bit of problems. Okay, let's just talk about them, shall we? And luckily here, I've had my fiance now, but my boyfriend who is very supportive, thankfully. And we're going to talk about how you bring it up with a partner and when to bring it up with a partner. But he helped me out of a few holes, and I messed up more than once. And I won't lie, I came in with student loan debt, credit card debt, car debt. I had like no money to my name whatsoever. And I still was living the life, my man. I was going out to eat. I was going to Maconda. I was living the dream in Minneapolis in my early 20s, doing whatever the hell I wanted, going out, didn't care about Uber Eats. Fuck it, order it. Ubers, who cares? Where are we going? Like literally no care in the world, no idea what I was spending. And that is so bad.
And it's very common.
Yeah. And I won't lie, I ignored my bank account. I ignored my credit card until it was so bad that I actually had to ignore it or I would have a panic attack. Mm-hmm. That's how bad it got. And I was buying clothes, I'm not joking, and I'm being 100% dead serious every single day. Like a shirt a day or maybe like pants a day.
They're still in the house. There's a whole guest room closet full of old clothes.
It's those dopamine hits that you're going for every time you buy something, right?
But I have broken that pattern. You can attest.
Yes.
I actually have.
Yeah.
But it takes practice and it takes effort. So anyway, with all that being said, I'm just, the reason Jordan is here too, because the strain that it put on our relationship, I mean, I'm lucky that he's extremely understanding and he's older, so he's been through it. So he could see from, I've been here, like, let me try to help. But it was bad. And I felt like I lived in a world of guilt because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to weigh us down. He thinks less of me. This is horrible. Anyway, enter Ryan, enter Jordan. And you've talked to me about like making mistakes at a young age, right? With finances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah. I mean, when I was probably, so I met Ryan when I was, I don't know, I'll call it 28. I mean, the years between like 25 and 28, I feel like when you get out of college and you actually start making, quote unquote, real money, like you have a real job, all of a sudden everything just feels like free and awesome. You're like, oh, I have all this money. Like I'm actually getting paychecks. I can spend it. And then you kind of forget about, the normal day-to-day things like rent and all the bills that you have to have. I think a lot of people come out of college and you don't realize all the things that you had growing up. Or if you didn't start like in college, right, like paying for rent, all of a sudden you have an electrical bill, you've got a car bill, you've got your rent, you've got like to pay for the trash, you got like an electric bill, you got an internet bill, you got a cell phone bill, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, where did all my money go?
I'm literally broke. Yep.
Yeah. So you have like all of that. And like you said, you just kind of forget about it for a while and you just start spending on a credit card. And I mean, like $100 a week on a credit card after a year, just $100 a week, right? That's $5,000, right? After 3 years, it's $15,000 and it's accruing that 10, 15, 20% interest.
25.
All of a sudden you've got, 20 to 25 grand.
25?
I don't know a credit card that's under 20 right now with where interest rates are.
You're joking.
There is not one that I can think of that's under 20%.
We have USAA, so ours are a little bit better.
Well, I don't have a USAA credit card, but...
Oh, well, you're not getting one because you already have American Express too. But,
okay.
But USAA, they have pretty good
restricted.
rates.
I've been restricted.
The point is you should never carry the balance, right?
In general, people carry too much of a balance and it just kind of gets away from it. It just happens really quick and it adds up really quick. So
yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Did you ever go through any of this, by the way?
Yes, but I do remember in college, you used to be able to get a T-shirt at the U of M. They would give out free T-shirts if you opened a credit card.
Oh.
And I remember distinctly knowing that was a bad idea. Like, free T-shirt, awesome. And it would actually get a lot of people at the U. But I remember just thinking, that's not a good idea. It's kind of predatory. And you're introducing this monopoly money piece of plastic that is probably going to bury some people. So I do remember even in college, like, it was like say no to drugs, but it was say no to credit cards back then.
Oh my God.
At least knowing enough to just, if I spent money on a credit card, and we can get into credit cards.
Yeah, we will. We'll talk about it. Okay, so thank you for sharing that, both of you. I want to talk about Finances 101, the basics of financial literacy. As you stated before this, what should we be doing with our dollar right now, our next dollar?
Yeah.
You had a 7-step list, and I'd love if you could kind of run through that.
Yep. So credit where it's due. This comes from Dave Ramsey. It's called the baby steps. And so basically, it's just a hierarchy. It's like kind of like a Maslow hierarchy of needs, except for finance. And it goes a little something like this. So baby step 1 is find $1,000. Just have access to $1,000.
And that is overwhelming to tell somebody who has no money, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So literally, that's why we try to incrementalize and make them somewhat attainable. Chunk them out.
Yep.
So find access to $1,000. I don't care if it's under your mattress, right? Once you have that, move on to baby step 2. So yeah, number 2 is eliminate consumer debt, i.e. credit card debt. I like to call credit card debt a financial tumor.
I was going to ask you what you call it because I've heard you said it to me because
Yes.
I've had it before.
It's cancer. And in order to get healthy, you have to cut the cancer out. And consumer debt, aka credit card debt that is rolling over every month. So let me be clear. It's a good thing to use credit cards when they are respected and they are paid off every month. Because why? You're spending someone else's money and you're choosing when to pay them back. You're paying the bank back once the bill comes due. That's really helpful in a sense of like security, like fraud. In other words, if you use a credit card, say your credit card gets used, but it wasn't you, well, they're going to refund that because they have a fraud department for a reason. If something gets double charged, it's easily fixed. It's not as easily fixed on a debit. So there are a lot of good things with credit cards, but if you start kind of getting a little lazy and maybe not pay it off every month, the key is just putting it on auto pay. But you have to be careful there too, because if you go hog wild, you might go past what's in your checking account to pay the credit card bill off. You'd be shocked how often I'm coming across people that I'm doing 401k reviews with them and I'm going through these baby steps and I have to stop right there at baby step 2 because I uncover they've got 20K of rolling credit card debt.
Oh, yeah, you know what? I know people that have that.
It's not that uncommon. Don't feel ashamed, but don't bury your head in the sand. And
You can't ignore it.
yes, and you just have to build momentum, 1% every day, atomic habits style. And then you get that. We have things called the debt avalanche method, where you just say you have five different credit cards or 5 different areas of debt, take the highest interest rate first, pay that off, then roll that payment to the next one. The next one, it starts to avalanche.
Do you think people understand that or know why?
Why to pay off the highest interest
whether
rate?
you have. So I know we're not talking about paying off cars or student loans or anything right now, but just as an example, like there is debt that is considered good debt, right? Like a student loan could be considered good debt because you used it to go to school, to get your degree, to get a job, right? And typically those interest rates are 3 to 5%. So just like very simple math, on $1,000, you would pay, if it's 3%, $30 over a year, right, in interest. On a credit card at 18%, that's
25.
At 25% on a credit card,
a lot.
that's $250, right? And so if you add it up after a year, you're going to pay $250 on that same $1,000 for a credit card as you're going to pay $30 for your student loans. Which one do you need to pay off first? The one that you're paying off more. That's why you pay off the higher interest rate, whatever the piece of debt is.
Yep.
You look at the highest interest rate. That's why.
That's why I
Yep.
say consumer debt.
Yeah.
That's baby step 2. So consumer debt, aka credit card debt, because it's a financial tumor.
Yeah.
And
If
it's
you
scary.
open up like a Nordstrom card, those are probably 20%.
Yes.
Like right there.
And I have. And I did use it. Okay. Okay. They said, okay, we'll give you 20% off these shoes you want. And I'm like, well, I only have $100 and they are $100 when I open up the card. Okay.
Seems like a good deal. And
Yep.
the other thing they don't tell you is it's a hard hit on your credit, and we can get into what credit is and all that fun stuff if we want to. But
Yeah.
there's a whole nother side thing that's happening with your credit score with FICO and Experian and all that. So it's just things to be aware of on the credit side of things.
Oh, Lord. Okay. What's number 3?
Number 3 is emergency reserve, right? So 3 to 6 months of lifestyle expenses should be saved in what I call a rainy day fund. So it's not invested. It's usually in a bank or a high yield savings account where if shit hits the fan and you lose your income or whatever, and you don't have money, you have at least 3 to 6 months to figure it out. And why I say 3 to 6 months of expenses, think like bills paid. If shit does hit the fan, you're not going to go to Amazon. Hopefully, you're not going to maybe travel as much during that time. You got to really buckle down. So 3 to 6 months. Beyond 6 months, then you go to baby step. What are we on? 4. And that's really saving for retirement. The next dollar after you've got $1,000, you've addressed your credit card debt, your consumer debt, short-term debt, and you've got your rainy day fund. The next dollar should go towards future you, future Sid, future Jordan.
Can you tell me, so you're talking about retirement savings, which is 401k, IRA, Roth.
Yep.
A lot of people wrote in, like, what is the difference between an IRA and a Roth? In simple terms,
Yes.
like, which one am I going to run in layman terms?
Not Lehman Brothers.
Lehman Brothers. No, I'm like, what is going on with the layman words? You guys are too much.
I think it's Lehman Brothers, actually. But
well, you know what? What is the difference? And can you keep it really simple?
yes. All right.
And which one am I running towards first with my money?
So traditional IRA, you put $1 away today. You get to deduct that dollar. It comes off your taxes. It's not dollar for dollar, but let's just try to keep it real simple.
Okay.
You put $1 into a traditional IRA, you deduct it. That dollar grows from $1 to $5 between now and retirement, because typically the stock market will go up more than it goes down if you give it enough time. Mm-hmm. That all $5 are taxable to you when you go to use them.
What does that mean? Taxable to me.
So you got to deduct the $1. You get to pay tax on all 5 because you deferred taxes that entire time between when you put it in and when you go to use it.
Yeah,
later.
I always like using really simple numbers. Let's say between the ages of 20 and 50, so 30 years, you saved $100,000 that you put away. It's growing now to the $500,000 that Ryan just talked about.
Yep, but it's taxed.
That's $400,000 in profit that you now are taking out to pull for yourself.
Yep.
But it has to get taxed because you never paid any tax on it.
Got it. Okay, that's easy. Okay,
so that's an IRA. And then the Roth IRA is...
You put $1 away today, you do not get to deduct that dollar.
Because
or
it's
100,000.
post-tax. Yeah.
It's an after-tax dollar going in.
Okay.
But the deal here is that same dollar grows to $5. All 5 are yours now, income tax free.
So that's the actual amount right there that I can pull out.
So
or like when it's when it's time.
Well, the
It's
question is,
$500,000, you get it.
would you rather pay tax on $1 or $5?
$1 hair, please.
That tends to make it fairly simple for people to realize Roth might be a good way. And here's the interesting thing. You don't have to do a Roth IRA. Almost all 401ks have a Roth option. They just when you go into the 401k, they default you to pre-tax. So you have to go in and say, I want to do the Roth option. It's a separate.
And I would assume they do that because they're getting more money up front, right?
I don't think there's enough, it's just, Roth was not a thing in 401ks until relatively recently. And it just defaults to pre-tax because it's just how it's always been.
Then I just really quick, because we briefed over it, but high yield savings account. If I've got money, when am I somebody who should be putting my money in a high yield savings account? Like, how much money is that the 3 to 6 months expenses of emergency expenses?
So usually it's like $10,000 is just kind of a good easy round number. Once you've got like 10,000 in a checking or savings account, anything above that, maybe start to consider a high yield savings account. Right now, as we film this, the Fed funds rate is between it's like 5.3%. It's about to go down in September, but right now, what that means is you can make around 5% for no risk.
For just like putting your money somewhere. So just basically what you're saying is if you for some reason have a lump sum of money sitting around, don't just let it sit around. You need to put it somewhere to do something for you.
This is what Sydney didn't understand for a while, was that she would have her rainy day fund and she just wanted to put it like in her checking or another checking or a savings
for
safety, which I totally get. And I had to explain the concept to her that like you should give that money either to Ryan or in a high interest, like you still have the money, but the money needs to grow and you can pull it out at any time. Just because like you see it in your whatever bank you have app, that like you have to get over that mental like block of it can be somewhere else growing. Like you don't just need to log in just to be able to see it in your app every single day. Like put it somewhere and let it grow, and you can still take it out if you need to.
It becomes like a safety blanket.
Yeah,
was.
You know,
and the
and you have
safety
to-
blanket should be removed a little bit.
Yeah.
I was scared.
Yeah.
Totally get it. It's a very common.
With all of this, okay, so you shared some numbers of like how much should I be putting away from my, okay, so now I'm like, oh, I got maybe my 401k, or maybe it is my 401k and my Roth. What percent of my income should I be putting away? Like where should I be at my age?
So great question. And again, very high level rule of thumb. But what I tell clients, and this is something I say, I wish when we turned 20 years old that it was like temporarily tattooed on our forehead, and we just remembered it. Because if every American just did this, we would not have problems in this country. And it goes like this. When you're in your 20s, you should be saving 5%. When you're in your 30s, 7, 40s, 10, 50s, 15, and 60s, 20% of your income. That's rule of thumb. So
that's all savings, by the way, right?
So you take your gross, gross means like pre-tax income number. Let's say it's $100,000 for easy math. When you're in your 20s, at least 5,000. When you're in your 30s, at least 7, and so on and so forth. So the key here is if you didn't do 5% in your 20s, it puts more burden to do more than 7 in your 30s, right? You have to make up for what you didn't do in your earlier years.
And what I'm making up for this money that I'm going to get at the end of my, 60 years of work or whatever, 70, whatever it is.
Retirement might be more like 70 by the time we get there. It's
really?
70 is the new 60 anyway, but Social Security age is 67. It's not going to be 67 by the time we get there. It'll be probably past that. And we can get into the reasons why.
No, we don't need to go in. But I just wanted to know. Okay, so just last question before we let you finish these steps, and we're going to go into general topics. But where should I be at in like the amount of money in my savings account at the age of, I'm 27, so you can use my age. Like what should I have like in savings, generally speaking? And I know a lot of these people listening are probably listening because they don't have these things going on, but just like to gauge where or what we should like have somewhere.
Let me answer this for you because I want to see what I'm going to say. What I think I just heard you say over the last 10 minutes. I'm going to regurgitate it and see how off.
Well, don't go too crazy.
Well, so if I started working at the age of 22, right, and let's just say I made $50,000 a year, I think a lot of most entry level post collegiate jobs are in that range. I don't know. I'm just guessing. So $50,000 a year. If you save 5% of that in your 20s, that's $2,500 a year. And I've been working for 5 years. So I should have about between 10 and 15 grand if I was 27.
But that would have grown, right?
Yeah.
Should have.
Sure. At 5%, right? Yeah. So 20 grand is what I would, if I did the rules that you just talked about at 27, I would have somewhere between 10 and 20 grand.
Okay.
And that's a really good start. And I like how you kind of just simplified it because that's kind of where my head was at. These are real high level, and I don't want anybody to feel bad that like I'm not even anywhere near that. The good news is it's super easy to fix.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a couple different changes. I always say if you never saw the money hit your bank account, you won't miss it, right? And so if you start to defer your paycheck into the 401k through work or into an IRA, if your company doesn't offer a 401k and it never hits your bank account, you're not going to miss it. And all of a sudden, boom, you've dollar cost average, and all of a sudden that money is a meaningful number fast.
That's what saved us, I think, too, is like, I don't even see the money that goes towards like what would be considered the house or like pre us having a house rent. Like I don't see that money. I don't see the money that goes in my Roth IRA or my 401k. I don't even see it. It's like, never existed to me. So it just like is gone with the wind or in a different account until it gets automatically pulled. And that is literally, without living that way, I would have continued to snowball into debt and make more and more and more mistakes over and over again. Like truly, I don't know if I could have done it without that system. What are the last 3 steps? So
the last 3 are way in the future, right? So don't worry about them too much. The next one is college savings for kids, if that's something you want to do. The next one is try to get your debt to income ratio to 0, meaning now you can start considering paying off a mortgage. And then the very last one, way down the road, is give back.
Okay. That's very helpful. I feel like I've learned so much from you because some of these easy tips, they seem so easy. They were extremely daunting. But I think the first thing to do is assess the situation. Like literally go look, what is my problem? What did I do? What did I put myself in and where am I at right now? Because you could wait a month, yeah, but you're just going to be in a worse position. So might as well face the brutal or whatever it is. Maybe it's not brutal. Maybe it's totally okay. You're going to get out regardless though, because I've gotten out of it every single time. I promise you it's possible. You just have to be diligent. Like I knew that I needed 200 every paycheck to pay off my debt. I brought my 401k investment down to zero, and I literally $200 right away to that debt. That means, and let's just say I had 4,000 in debt. I got a paycheck once every week. $200 towards that went towards to paying off my card, and I paid it off in less than 6 months. Right. So that's how I did it.
I think that's an important point you just made there, which was, sometimes I have to talk to people if I've caught that they've got financial tumors, aka credit card debt, and they're doing a 401k. This happens all the time. I say, you're better off stopping your 401k, take the money that was going into that, and you can do a quick calculation on what that is. It's on your pay stub. Take that number and put 100% of that towards your credit card debt.
Yeah.
Because you're way better off pausing the 401k that may grow at, let's say, 6 to 10% to pay down credit card debt that's at 20 to 25%, right? That's just pure math. So I distinctly remember this chat with you.
Oh, yeah. And I will admit, I've had to pull from savings, like big account savings, to save myself as well, to get rid of debt. So have you ever had to do that?
Yeah.
And it sucks.
Yeah, it really sucks.
But guess what doesn't suck? Having no debt looming over your head, like big debt, scary debt, the ones that are growing. Like that doesn't suck. The tumor is not there. So I would way rather be like, damn it, my 6 months of payments savings is gone, but I just have no debt anymore. So I'm just going to have to start from zero. Well, guess what? I've had to start from zero like 10 times. And now I'm not at zero, and I have new habits that are healthy, and I will never go back to that scary, dumb place. So just know that wherever you are, like I see you, it's scary, it's uncomfortable, but you are okay. Well, let's talk about relationships and convos with your partner, because a lot of people, I wanted to give my single crew and the people who maybe are solo dolo right now, all the info that I really, really wanted everyone to know. And now let's talk about finances with a partner, because that's my other crew that wrote in a lot of questions. I will just really quick say a ton of things that they wrote in, and a lot of these I was like, oh my gosh, either relatable or let's get you some support and some help. So biggest financial fears with partners, people wrote in, fairness when understanding debt that ebbs and flows. So this included fights over leisurely spending, how to split expenses. He doesn't make enough money respect with each other, which I think is huge. This one says, I like to save while partner likes to spend. That was a Jordan and Sid situation, but I was the spender. I don't want their debt to become mine. That's a huge one that people wrote in. There was one to talk about baby planning money, one on the way. Losing everything because of poor finances. That's their biggest fear. This is a tough one, but he will keep gambling because he lies about sports betting. And then,
Ooh.
Yeah,
That might be good for you.
We might need to talk
I
about
haven't
that.
gambled in a while.
My debt. So the weight on us, which I think we talked about and addressed, and then not being able to buy a house because it's so expensive. So those were people's biggest financial fears with a partner. I want to back it up, of course. But how to have the convo about finances with your partner? How do we have it? When do we have it?
My rule of thumb was when you start living together. I don't think... I mean, I just, my opinion is like, if you're living on your own and you pay to put your roof over your head, I don't think it's really much of your business. I mean, you can have like the conversations, but you can't really have a say until, you're either providing or sharing like what is a lifestyle, right?
Communal space.
Yeah. It's like when you're in high school and your parents are like, I put this roof over your head. You like take out the fucking trash. You know what I mean? Like, when you're taking out your own trash and you're paying for your own internet and your bills and all that stuff, like you're kind of on your own. I feel like once you can join that and like you're both responsible for things that can like heavily influence your life, like getting kicked out of an apartment because you don't pay your rent or being late on your bills and getting like collection stuff, like that's when you need to have that conversation about joint finances and like your finances, how they affect each other.
But I will say, if someone like got me to move in with them and then was like, oh, by the way, I have a gambling problem or I have like $200,000 in debt, that, most of it or half of it or whatever you want to say is like fun money that I spent, I would be like,
Yeah, but
I feel
I guess
bamboozled.
my point is
Yeah.
my point is you would, I mean, when
Generally
you have the
speaking.
conversation about let's move in together, that's probably when it should come up.
And
I'm not saying you just talk about it after you move all your stuff in the house.
no, but it probably would have came up in some way prior to that. Like if they have a gambling problem, they probably are at the casino or online gambling nonstop, right? Like these are things that you should pay attention to. I think it's going to be obvious, but okay. Financial advisor take on that.
I tend to agree with what you're saying in that just as far as finances go, I think you should just be open and honest as soon as you feel comfortable. Now, I'm not saying like date 2, you're saying how much do you make? What's in your Roth? Don't be doing an interrogation on the
That
finances.
would be weird.
Very little bit much, but like, let's say things are going well and you've been dating for a few months,
6 months.
Sure. And you feel like it's going that direction. You probably have that feeling whether I could see myself doing this with this person. I think that's a really good time to just say, hey, can we have a chat about finances? And, I see you doing this and I can't do that. For example, like I see you buying this and I really appreciate you're buying this for me, or you picked up the bill or whatever. That makes me feel uncomfortable. I'd love to just have some discussions about finances and open the gates. And, it starts small, I'm sure, but then you get comfortable having the talks about money. And really, it's just got to be open and honest.
Or if you're going to move into like, hey, we're going to move into an apartment and it's $3,000 rent. I can't comfortably afford anything more than $1,000 a month. So either you will have to pay the difference, or we need to find something that's in the middle if that doesn't feel fair, like something that's going to be 50-50. You have to put your foot down. You can't lie about it, because if you lie about it, you're just going to put yourself in an even worse place. But you can't have shame. You cannot have shame about like making less, or all
Absolutely
of these things, because that's just how the world goes.
Yes.
It's going to be an imbalance. I don't think any point.
There's no partnership where both people make the exact same amount of money. There's always one party will make more, one party will make less. And I think when we sat down and had this combo, we just put down what each other made. Like if you do really easy math, let's say one person, this is just very easy math. One person makes $100,000, one person makes $50,000. Well, that would tell you that one person should be responsible for 2/3 of stuff. One person would be responsible for the other 1/3. So if you go out to, $100 dinner, somebody picks up $60-ish of it. Somebody picks up $30-ish of it, right? Like that's very simple. Like everything should be equal to what you bring in.
You don't have to be that granular. That you could just say,
kind
I'll do
of
the
general
2,
rule
you
of
do
thumb.
one. I'll do 2, you do one.
Yeah.
that
Very
sort of
general rule of thumb to
Yep.
just make like, if we're doing stuff, then it should, like, I should feel the weight the same way that you should feel the weight.
How and when do you blend, merge, whatever you want to call it, finances? Like, and what is there a system to do it? Because we did this not that long ago. And literally it was a little bit vulnerable, because you have to put out on the table, like, this is what I make. This is the debt I have. This is where I tend to spend a little too much. This is how many dollars I have in my savings account, which was $3. No, I'm kidding. But like, just, it was a bad month. So I had like no money to my name, and we just had to be honest, and we made an Excel, and we kind of went from there, and we were like, okay, what do we want to blend? And he really took the lead on that, which I so appreciate. But we knew we wanted like a joint checking account for groceries, because we live under the same roof. And again, the money that you don't see like pulled out of your account, it just goes somewhere before you even get to touch it. I don't think twice about. So that's how we have our
I learned this
things.
at a younger age. I don't think a lot of people do that. Maybe they do. I don't know. It's kind of non-standard, but every HR system, if you work for a traditional like corporate job, right? When you log in and you choose the bank account that your money goes to, right? Like you put in
direct deposit.
Yeah, your direct deposit. You put in your checking and your routing number. Well, the way that I had always done it was that I had a checking account, I had a savings account, and then I had another like savings account, and then I had, where all my savings went to. And when we sat down together, we had our own personal accounts, we had a joint checking account, and then we had our own savings accounts. And we just did the math on what we made and said, in this joint checking account, this is like all of our bills. Like we have to pay the mortgage, we have to pay the internet, we have to pay the cell phones, we have to pay all that stuff. Every single month, I know what that number is, right? It's X number. I make 70%, you make 30%. I'm just throwing out general numbers. So I'm going to put this amount in, 70% of what that monthly is. You're going to put this amount in, 30%. That's the number. And that goes straight into there every single month. And we don't have to worry about it.
Can I explain something? So if for instance, I'm kind of in a weird place, but I get paid 4 times a month. Most people get paid 2 times a month. So just now I know that I have to put, let's say, the 30% in, like to pay for the, the roof overhead and all these things. If I just divide that number in half, right? That's half of it is what comes out of my first paycheck. Half of it is what comes out of my second paycheck, and you're done. I'm saying if you were paid twice a month. So you never have to think about it. You will always have the right amount of money to get, honestly, the finances out that are non-negotiables. You need to pay rent. You need to have all your bills paid because that is where debt accrues, and you don't want to go to collections. Can you say your collections funny story? Sorry, it's not funny, but it's a little funny now because we figured it out real quick.
No, it's not
to
funny.
sidetrack.
This was
It was ridiculous is why it's funny.
It was pre-Sydney, and I was trying to, I think maybe it was purchase this home.
Pre-Sydney, I was around.
Okay, so it was during Sydney. So I was trying to move out of the condo downtown to purchase this home.
I remember.
And I had to pull, they pull everything, like your credit, all this stuff. And they were like, you don't have good enough credit. I'm like, respectfully, fuck off. Like I have I have worked to pay off a lot. Like I don't have any debt. Like, what are you talking about? And they were like, yeah, there's this deal from Comcast on here. It's been on your credit for 3 years, and it's like killing your credit. You're down to like 500 something. I'm like, excuse me? Like, can you tell me what this is? Like, this is concerning. And when I had lived at my apartment in Northeast Minneapolis by myself, when I moved out, I didn't send the remote back. Like, you're supposed to send the remote and the the box back.
Yep.
I didn't send it back. And they were sending collections to my old address.
Or he literally has
not calling me. They were just sending mail every month. Yeah, saying that you have an outstanding whatever, like this is a debt collection. You haven't paid this, that, and the other. And I was
for a
irate.
remote.
I am sitting there across from like this person that's about to help me like try and buy this house, like a dream home that I have to move really fast on. I'm like, are you really not going to let me do this over a fucking $20 remote from 3 years ago? That's like, I couldn't even comprehend it. And so I don't know what they did. I think they went back, like they figured out like who I could pay it to.
They used common sense.
I literally had to go pay like after all the interest, like $49 and paid it off. And then they were like,
$49 was keeping him from buying a home.
Yeah, well, it was killing my credit score. It was making it was the facade of like I didn't have good enough credit for it, and so like in hindsight, it's kind of funny, but at the same time,
a call
it's
back
ridiculous.
to the credit conversation we were having earlier. So there are, if you just Google what's my credit score, there are lots of free ways to figure out what your credit score is, and don't let that. You never know. You might have some hanging remote thing like Jordan.
I had no clue.
Just check your credit score.
I'm a freak about it. And in my Delta card, it tells me you're like FICO, or I think it's FICO credit score. And I check it all the time because I'm a freak. And it's free checking, and it's not hurting my credit by checking. But I'm a wackadoodle. I have a insane deep-rooted.
That's actually, just so you know, that's the American Express app. They do that for free.
Oh, okay.
It's very
nice. That's good. Hashtag ad. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, hashtag Amex.
No, I really like my Amex from Delta because I get points for it. So anyway, I'm going to Cancun for free. Oops. Nope, not Cancun. Cancun, we found out, was actually a flight that we had to cancel.
Yeah,
remember when I found
canceled
random
a flight
amount
on
of money?
Sydney's account, and she was like, "Oh, I have this free flight I can use to go to my friend's bachelorette party." I don't know where it came from. I'm like, first off, if you don't know where it came from, like it came from somewhere, so don't just ever assume that. Two, that was my flight, but
I didn't know. I
guess you're going.
I felt blessed. I was like, oh my God, the gods are telling me I can go. Like this is huge.
Here's another great rule of thumb. Like if $1,000 shows up on your doorstep, it's not just like
there's some strings attached somewhere.
Somebody somewhere gave that to you for some reason.
I act a little ignorant. I'm actually smart, you guys. I was very excited. Anywho, we're bringing it back. Okay, so do people merge all their finances? When should they be doing this? How should they be doing this?
The answer to that question is probably more in line with the how you answered it earlier, which is that conversation might start coming up when you move in together.
Yeah.
The merging accounts. But again, be very open and honest well before that, because you don't want to have a bomb go off really like, oh, I'm really into this guy, but he's got $40,000 of credit card debt or $120,000 in student loan. That am I going to have to take that burden on? Because I'm sure that's going through people's heads too. Is like,
100%.
what do I do with? I'm here on my net worth, and this person's here. You don't want to find that out way down the road.
I was very territorial about my finance stuff at first, just because I was just worried and nervous, and I was like, you're getting in my business, like what the hell? I've always been solo. What is that? I don't like this. Like, this is weird. But like, you're a team, and you just you start to like build them together. And now like we do have our own savings accounts, but really that's my savings are really going out the door. My joint or my savings by myself is like if we have something we need to do for the house, or if I want to go on a trip or something like that.
Or if we want to get married and have a wedding.
That too. Well, that's being invested, but yes, I understand what you mean by that. But you have a story, right? How you and Kaylee met.
Well,
you were going to mention that, right?
To wrap up the thing with the joint finances, because it's kind of separate.
Okay, fair enough.
But
I might have had it in the wrong spot. My bad.
That's okay. To your point, you can repurpose one of these accounts as a joint account. That account pays your joint bills, your groceries, your mortgage, and then you can still keep your separate accounts. That's very common. In fact, well into marriage, that's pretty common.
Yeah.
A lot of times, the only time you ever end up fully joining is when one person stays home with the kids and the other person's the only sole income earner. That's typically the natural time to fully merge, right? Because there's just one income coming in now. It doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah, true.
But I've seen it where, and then sometimes the person will go back to work 5 years later or whatever, and then they get separate accounts again, and it works just fine. So point is, there's not one answer for every household on how to do joint. What's the rule of thumb there? It just, the number one message is you got to have open, honest communication about money all the time. Mm-hmm. That's huge. So,
okay. I like that.
So,
your story.
Well, it's more so just another way of thinking about money, but it's also how I met my wife in the Starbucks in Savage.
Oh my God, funny! I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I got brought in by a newer advisor that wanted to learn this concept I call cash momentum, and he's like, I want to see how you do this, but I'm also going to bring you in front of a prospect that I want to try to get as a client. And it happened to be my wife. Bury the lead.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the theory with cash momentum is sort of what you were saying earlier, Jordan, which is you open 3 accounts. You can do more, but three accounts. One is your direct deposit account where the paycheck goes directly into that account. The next account is your bill pay account. So all your fixed expenses, think rent or mortgage or gym memberships, phone, what repeated expenses. They're repeated every month. Even gasoline.
Or annually.
All subscriptions. So with gasoline, it's like how much is my typical fill at the tank, and on average, how often do I fill up per month? You can get a number there. So all bills, and that's a number, and you just do a one-time transfer from the holding account, the account that all the money goes into, down to the bill pay. And it really has you focus on a budget. Like this is my lifestyle. This is what has to go out. Now, you can get into traps there, right? Because we are subscription to death nowadays. There's a subscription for everything, and you can start to justify to yourself, I need this subscription and I need this. So you really have to put a fine-tooth comb on need versus want subscriptions, right?
I need HBO. I'm just going to come out and say it.
Oh my God.
I need my HBO subscription.
I know.
Don't even get me started on how.
But it's free if you have a Disney subscription that also has
go.
Paramount and everything
House
else.
of the Dragon, they should have had like at least 3 more episodes.
Oh my God, by the way, I was pissed about that last one. Don't
there.
say anything. Don't say anything. Don't order it for people.
Yeah.
But yes.
If they haven't seen it by now.
But I love that method, and I know that we had an episode too that talked about budgeting. So if you want to go deeper into budgeting, go back to that episode that I had Jordan on too, and we'll probably end up having you back because there's just so much to talk about with everything too.
Surface.
I want to play to break it up a little bit.
I didn't finish the other thing.
Sorry. What? I keep thinking you're done.
No, there's the third account.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
So just
this
to
is
recap,
how much I know, by the way, everybody.
First account, direct deposit. That's your holding account. Second account is your bill pay account. Third account is lifestyle, like discretionary spending. That's what you're doing as far as you're putting yourself on a budget. This is what I'm going to spend at a restaurant. This is what I'm going to spend on Amazon purchases, right? So that's your discretionary
spend money.
That's your spend money. But the point is you've budgeted that. And
now it's okay. You're okay
and you
to
can
spend
that. But once it gets low or to zero, the point is there's a little bit of pain. Like I have to move money from my holding account where the direct deposit comes down into my discretionary account. There's a little bit of pain to make that transfer. You feel it. It's a psychological thing, right? So the point is you're flipping upside down how you're thinking about money. You're saving first, spending last, because assuming you're putting more money into the holding account than your bill pay and your lifestyle accounts get, that bill pay account, that holding account grows because it's untouched. And then once that account gets to say $10,000, now you transfer that to a high yield savings or the stock market, right?
Or if you had debt for some reason, you better be paying that crap off during that.
But so that's called cash momentum. You're building momentum by saving first, spending second.
Well, now I know too, because of this little system, that I have like $200 to spend like over a week and a half or so. Like, right? Like I know that, and I have to stay on that or everything gets messed up. And so I know that, like, although those 100 pair of jeans are great, I already went out to dinner twice, and I had to pay for something on Amazon that we needed for the house. And now, oops, I can't.
I have this little diagram I draw to visually show cash momentum, but that's okay. We'll do a whiteboard next time.
Yeah, that's a financial advisor office, not a...
I know. They need to get in with
thing.
you. Sorry that I cut you off. I forgot about the lifestyle savings, which I'm like, sometimes when I hear these, I'm like, wait, which one is it? Which one? What am I doing?
Let's hear the call-in.
Okay, so let's hear the call-in. Thanks for calling in, by the way.
Hi, Sid. Love the podcast. I'll try to make this as short as possible. But I am starting a business. I've been operating for a couple months now, and I'm starting to look into making it more legit, insurance, a website, all that kind of stuff. And I saw you posted about financial advice with your partner. And unfortunately, my partner has lost their job, and we just moved into our first space. So the stress and the pressure is on to kind of decide how and where to go for my business while being in this situation. So I was just curious if you guys have any advice or what you think should be my focus or my next steps in this situation. Thank you.
So what was it? So she's starting a business, but her partner just lost their job.
Yes.
So
and that was the safe money income
yes.
of the partnership?
Yes. So what should she do now? Like, I mean, and I think this is not a what you should do. I think this is what you guys should do, you both. But I'm not the expert here, so I'm going to let you
I'm not an expert either. The first thing, though, I would say is that if you had the rainy day fund built up previously, you would have 3 months to figure it out and probably not have the added stress that there is now. So keeping that in mind for the future, because you never know when something like this is going to happen.
Right.
Yeah, first thing that came to mind was this is why baby step 3 is a rainy day fund.
Yeah.
3 to 6 months of expenses. Now, let's just assume that that's not there, and it's not an uncommon thing to not have a rainy day fund, an emergency reserve. So don't feel bad if you don't. That's why it's baby step 3. You know, you just build momentum. I guess I would say take a breath, look at your budget, just talk about money. This is a really important time to just open the books emotionally and also monetarily and say, all right, what is the needs versus wants that we have in our life? You're going to be shocked how many things you think is a need, but it's more of a want. Can we just temporarily cut this out for a little bit? Let's just hit the reset button here. Mm-hmm. Here's what ends up happening with people is they like you come out of college and you all of a sudden you're making real money and your lifestyle butts right up against what you're earning. Right? And sometimes more than you're earning. That's where you get credit card debt.
Yep.
And as you get raises, your lifestyle goes up, but so does your income goes up, but so does your lifestyle, right? And this American trap is that you just start spending every dime you make and sometimes more, and you forget the fundamentals, the Maslow hierarchy of financial needs, which is you got to save for future you.
Yeah.
So that and again, I feel like I'm a little bit saying like, well, you should have done that. I'm just, now that it's happened, it's a learning experience. Sit down, budget, be open, and just make little changes, and you start to see the momentum build, get small wins.
I think I mean, without having any context, it's hard to know what the business is too, but I think Minnesota is actually a very good state to be in to start a business and also get like aid help for like small business loans. Again, it's hard to say, like, knowing what the business is and what type of money comes in from that small business, right? Like if it's a business like I don't know. Is it a small business where you're hiring employees and you're starting like a small shop, or is it something like, you're starting up a podcast like this where, you're probably not going to be bringing in revenue monthly for a while you grow, right? Like those are two very different types of businesses that you're starting. One brings in revenue. You're probably going to be able to get like a small business loan to start it and get it up and going. Another one is like a small business that you're hoping to grow over the next couple of years that is not going to bring in revenue right away.
Yeah.
Like I would definitely sit down and figure out which one it is.
Don't lose your drive. Don't lose your passion. Continue pushing through if you can. But like if, let's say Jordan had lost his job, like I would be willing to drop all my things in support for the time being, so but I would put a pretty tight time. I can do this comfortably or a little bit uncomfortably for 3 months, but you gotta be on fire every day, like looking for that job. So just conversations, right?
You are selling yourself now to get the next job. How can I meet the right person and sell myself and my abilities? What skills do you have that you can make money on?
The positive thing that I always go back to is if I did lose my job, I think nowadays with technology, networking, like it's easy to put yourself out there. Like it might be hard personally to put yourself out there, like and get over the mental hump of doing that.
Yeah.
But the fact that like you don't have to necessarily go into every job interview in person, right? Like if you have a cell phone, you can get on a Zoom call. You can put on a nice like shirt or dress or whatever and like get on and, like you said, sell yourself to a job. The fact that there's LinkedIn out there nowadays, like it's a lot easier. It's more accessible to be able to get access to all these different ways to get a job. And I think that too many people take that for granted.
Side hustles. I mean, you can find a side hustle pretty easily now.
You might have to start doing like WAG or whatever, the tail, or what's it called? The tail, the dog walking company, or like, dog sitting or something like on the side if you need a little extra cash. Thank you for writing in, by the way. I didn't say thank you, but like, thank you for being vulnerable. It is the hardest thing, is just addressing the problem. And I really am giving you good energy to, like put into this time that's going to be a hustle, and then it's going to pay off for you, because on the other side of that, I know there's give and there's take, but hopefully you'll be taking a little bit more than giving in the coming months when he gets a role.
What's the gift or opportunity that you can find in this hard time?
Yeah.
And it's hard to see it in the moment, but there will be a gift or opportunity that comes out of pretty much every failure, and it's going to make you way stronger.
I think if you literally go back, take 3 months of every charge of you and your significant other and write down how much that came out to, right? Like everything is electronic now, unless, I guess some people use cash, but not very many. You could go back and you could see how much you spent every week for the last 3 months. And I bet I could almost guarantee if you looked at that, you could cut out 25% of it. I guarantee it. You could find a few $100.
100%.
That's one of those words I can't use. The G word.
Yeah, guarantee. Don't use that word.
Guarantee.
But you can.
You can.
I can. You can over here.
I can.
Okay, so we're talking about couples. What is your number one piece of advice for a couple? Your number one financial tip?
I mean, I've said it a few times, and I will go back to it. Open communication, financially, but also just in general. But don't be afraid to talk about money. It seems to be a faux pas for a lot of people, at least well into their relationship. But it's not. Just talk about, what are your goals? What are your aspirations? What do you want to do in life? And how does money help? It also, like, one of the things that tells a lot about somebody is like, if you ask someone, what's your first memory of money? What's the first, maybe you can answer that.
I can answer that.
What's your first memory of money?
Scarcity. My parents talking about my dad losing his job and my parents like fighting over, not fighting. They weren't like fighters, like yellers or anything, but like just like worrying about money and like, oh God, another, like, I hate my job and I'm worried about this. I'm worried about we're going to lose the house. What if we lose the house? What if we don't have enough money for the car? Oh my God, you can't have that car. We need to get rid of that car. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough money. So yeah.
Do you remember your first memory?
Mine was probably around the 07, 08 when, maybe it was a little before that because my dad had gotten deployed, but then I was going off to college and they had to move down to Atlanta because that's where his job was. It was like during the financial crisis. They had to go down to Atlanta. And I was like, wow, yeah, it's pretty real. And
this is a great like icebreaker to your significant other, just a good question to ask because it kind of, it's a loaded question, right? It uncovers maybe their relationship with money a little bit, right? And it's a jump off point to open up the conversation to all this other stuff we've been talking about today.
I will say recognizing too what your parents' relationship to money is, because that was something that I didn't break the pattern for. Like like we've talked about this before, but like my grandma went into a pretty serious series of debt she got out of before she passed. My dad went into a pretty serious bit of debt. And then I went into some debt with like, just like racking up credit cards, thankfully not as serious, but like I was making similar pattern mistakes, avoiding it. Anxious behavior, like buying things out of impulse, like buying things just because I had money and I should buy it right now. Or like I knew my paycheck was coming in for let's say $200, whatever. And I was already buying something for $250 because I'm going to get another $200 next week. So it'll be fine. Oh wait, what about everything else that I need in that time? That is brutal. Like, so just anyway, recognizing those patterns has helped a lot.
The other thing is there's in every relationship, there's someone who's the financial savvy person and the person that's not as savvy.
I'm so savvy.
And figuring out who that is probably fairly simple, but then focusing and helping the person that's not as financially savvy understand the best way you can. That's going to go a long way in just relationship health in general.
What about the financial stress of like, well, we want to go out to eat and we want to do all these things and that's how we do date night, but it's so expensive. Like, how do we balance doing date night and going out to do something? Because that's how we date each other when we are, as some people say, piss broke because they're, we're humans growing up. Adulting.
I gave you those rules of thumb of like saving 5% in your 20s, 7% in your 30s and whatnot. The cool thing is if you can do that, then you can feel good about spending the rest because you're checking that box. Like I'm not here to say like, oh, you just save every penny you earn. Like that's not realistic, but try to get to 5 or 3. I'm not saying go 0 to 60 in today, but maybe go up 1% a year until you get to where you need to be.
Yeah.
Start at a reasonable number. And if you take a paycheck, let's say you make $1,000 and 5% of $1,000, I mean, that's nothing, right? That's $50.
$50. Yep.
I mean, you can put away $50 for your future self. It's not going to anybody else. It's going to your future self. Yeah. You frame it that way.
Most people listen. I would guarantee all people listening to this need to have the harsh reality of like, you can save a lot more than you think. Yes. It's really hard to hear that, but like I can guarantee you're going out, you're spending money on drinks and food. And we went out to eat the other night.
It was ridiculous.
I just looked at the bill for fun because like I did. I looked and I was like, Sydney, how much do you think your portion of the bill costs tonight?
We talked about it before I ordered, by the way.
Yeah, and this isn't like I'm, like angry dad. Like I was genuinely curious. She was like $80. I was like, $80. Your drink was $15. Your appetizer was $17, which by the way was Brussels sprouts.
We were going to share.
Like, what are we doing paying $17 for Brussels? But my point is like it really
but I'll tell you after.
Yeah, we're not going to say the restaurant name, but like that's actually pretty standard nowadays. Like if you get a drink and an appetizer, you're in for $40, and then you're tipping.
No, and a main too.
Yeah, I'm just saying if you're only getting a drink and an appetizer, like, and you're doing that 2-3 nights a week, and you put that away.
So what we decided to, we talked about this right after because we were like, okay, this is bad. And we're saving for a wedding. And this is like ridiculous, Redonkel town. So I also really enjoy my cooking more than, because I've learned it, because I've forced myself to learn more than food I can get out. And that's just the truth. So we decided like, we're going to do date nights. We're going to make some together. And then maybe on the weekends, yes, we can, after we eat, we could go get maybe a non-alcoholic beverage out or share a treat or share an app if we're going to do that. We really need to get out of the house and go somewhere. But that's what we're going to do. And like, lean into your gift cards. Like I have a few gift cards lying around. We're going there first. Like,
I'm sorry. They hope you don't spend those. They hope you forget about it.
I know that's what they want.
Here's what I did. I looked at Sydney and I was like, realistically, we go out twice a week. Like just for something. Mm-hmm. Let's just say it's $100 each time we go. Because that's kind of what it feels like it is. Like that's just like standard nowadays if you go on a date. I feel bad for the guys right now that are like trying to make it, like going out on dates. They're probably spending $200 a date. If you go out twice a week, it's so $400. So let's just say we just cut out one of those, $100 a week. I was like, what is that over 52 weeks? She took 2 minutes to answer.
No, God, why do you want to like pretend like I'm some idiot?
I'm just kidding. But she's like,
by the way, I was in calculus BC in high school, so everyone can suck my ween.
Yeah, well,
okay?
Once you get letters in math, I'm out. But she's like, that's $5,000. I'm like, that's $5,000 that could go to our wedding next year if we just don't go out once a week. Like $5,000, I don't know what it gets us for a wedding nowadays. Maybe
you can have a side of ranch.
But still, like that was the point, was that, I mean, it adds up just super quick. And I don't think people, like if you sat down and you had the actual conversation with yourself, you would realize, like, don't go to Cowboy Jack's both nights. Go out like one night and put the rest towards your 401k. You'll be really happy in a long time.
Or your rainy day fund.
Or your rainy day fund, your baby step B, C, E, or D, or whatever.
Ultimately, we're doing a lot more date nights in. We're going to do it smarter. We're going to, like charcuterie board night, which is really, really fun. Like if we want to go to a movie, we're going to go on Tuesdays because it's Tuesday $5 night at most theaters. Like just smarter, because truly, ultimately, many people are in a tight situation. We just like to pretend that we're not. And especially right now when we're trying to save for our wedding, we had to, we're putting more money away, and we're also higher expectations on our side hustles, especially for me, to bring in more money. And so it's about to be grind time, baby. Let's effing go. Sorry, you were going to say something. I think
you hit on something there that people need to hear again is, don't try to keep up with the Joneses.
No.
Everyone's got their own money struggle. They show what they're spending on Instagram, but just take some pride. Little Dicky said it best. Save that money. That's a good song.
I thought he said spend it.
Save that money.
Save that money? It's
save that money.
Okay. I want to make sure that we covered on a ton of people's financial fears with a partner, and I'm just going to
spend it.
You guys are hilarious. I'm trying to keep these boys on track, but we talked about how we're, the best way to split, but it talks about open communication, fights over leisurely spending. Here's one rule that I have is, if Jordan's making ends meet and he's keeping up with his end of the bargain, I have no say in his leisure money spend. I'm sorry. I just don't. I'm never going to comment on his golf trips, or his golf equipment that comes in almost every day. No, but he holds up his end of the bargain. We have a deal, and that's the way it works. And what am I to judge him when he's going to judge me every shirt that comes in or a pair of shoes when I buy it one time? I don't need to judge his spending unless they're not holding up their end of the bargain. They're like, I can't, I don't have enough money for rent or something. Then I'm going to be like, are you effing kidding me? Like, what are you spending your money on?
Now let's peel back the onion on the budget a little bit. Where are you at on your baby steps? That's really good. I think you said it better than I could, is just, if you're holding up your end of the bargain and you're doing the baby steps, what's your next dollar? What should it be doing? Let's say you're 32 and you're doing at least 7% of your pre-tax income. Then yeah.
And here's the thing, like if I get better golf clubs, it saves me strokes. I don't have to buy as many golf balls.
Okay.
And I
got
become better at it.
Got it.
And
There's a name for that where you like justify the expense. I forget, but yeah.
hey, golf's my thing.
We're going to fly through
No
these because
shame.
we're already at an hour, but
Yep.
I want to keep flying through these. This one says, I don't want their debt to become mine. And we talked about that as being a fear. And, you know, like, let's say they're getting married and their partner does have $200,000 worth of student loan debt. What is going on here?
So this is a little bit where
I know you can't say a whole lot, right?
yeah, I have to be careful on how I say this. This, you know, this is a situation where you need to really have open communication. I keep going back to that. But also there are ways to address that pre-marriage.
Okay. With a financial advisor, I'm assuming.
Or an attorney.
Okay.
Right?
Yep. I'm understanding.
And it's just going to be situational.
We want prenup. Yeah.
That's one way. But that has pros and cons to it, right?
You're a nut.
So
just saying.
that's a touchy subject, and it's very real. You know, someone's here in net worth, someone's here. Say they're negative. The negative net worth is pretty common with someone with student debt, right? Mm-hmm. They have $100,000 of debt and maybe $10,000 in cash. That's a negative net worth.
Yeah.
So, and then what about the person that they're going to marry that's feeling like I've been making good decisions my whole life and I'm at this number
And I don't want your
and I don't want your burden. That's a real thing.
You can't expect to put your burden on somebody else either. So you have to know. Like, you just have to go in and talk to a financial advisor or somebody.
Yep.
Right, Jordan?
Yeah,
Are you going to say that? I want to hit on these real quick. These three: wedding savings, house savings, baby savings. How, like, people are like, I mean, even when I first heard that, like, how are we supposed to save for a wedding? I have no idea. I'm already crunched for money right now. What the hell? You know, like, how are people doing these things?
Well, can I just say the
Yes.
house savings should be first. That's what, like, your roof is over your head. If at the end of the day we had to say, like, we're not getting married so that we can keep the house, it would be a very easy decision for me. Like, we're just going to go elope somewhere. Like, I'm sorry, but that would be the decision for me.
That's okay with me.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's reality. I'm just saying, like, in general, like, the house should be first.
You need shelter.
You need shelter. Yeah,
one of the
everybody
necessities
pays
everybody-
either rent or home owns or whatever it might be. And then on the wedding front, my opinion is, like, you can save if you start to cut other stuff out. Like, for me next year, I'm only going on one golf trip. Like, I normally go on 3 or 4.
And it's your
That's my
bachelor
thing.
one, right?
And it's my bachelor party. Like,
Yay!
I
So
told
fun,
her,
though.
like, that's kind of where I'm going to cut to save. And, like, I think you should do the same, you know, because we were looking at just, you know, how much we like to travel. And those are the fun things we like to do.
Yeah.
But
We're big
over the next
travelers.
year, like, our wedding takes precedent and we're going to prioritize that over other stuff. And it's having the hard combo of, you know, the wedding means more to me than going to Florida for 3 days.
Can I say one thing though? We have both said the wedding is not going to be a relationship divide. I am not going to spend the next year of my life feeling like absolute shit all the way up to this amazing day to feed everybody's mouse and you know, kiss each other in a white dress like that. I'm not ruining my relationship.
Yes.
For that
No,
day.
but it is doable.
But it is doable.
Yeah.
But that's what I've always said is I always came into it with, I don't need the biggest, baddest XYZ.
Yes.
We are coming to this together and what's comfortable and what's doable. It's going to be a little uncomfortable, obviously, because it's money. But like,
And I don't get to golf as much.
and you don't get to golf as much.
That's what marriage is all about, compromise,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So wedding, house,
Okay. So
baby.
first,
What are you pulling from? Because the ideal thing is people are sitting here thinking, I make, let's call it 100,000. Let's just keep it easy a year. And right now, all my money is going to places. Where the hell am I getting money to save for a wedding, house, or baby, depending on what part of life you're in?
you just have to look at a budget, see what your lifestyle is. I would agree with Jordan saying that order of operations would be house first. You need shelter, then marriage. Obviously, usually babies come after marriage. They don't have to, but for a house, an easy way to just figure out, like, where do I even start? What's even in my budget? You can go get pre-approved by almost any mortgage broker. I think there's free tools online. Like they'll just have you plug in your income, all your debts that you currently have, and they'll give you a pre-approval number. And that's at least just a starting point on, like, maybe a ballpark of what I could afford. It'll also give you what does your principal and interest on that payment look like? Then you got to add in taxes and insurance. Don't forget about that. Property taxes and insurance to insure the house. So that's your monthly payment. And there's tons of free resources online to figure out, if I bought a $400,000 house, what would my PITI payment be? Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment. That's the full. So
let's say you find out that you need at least 40,000 down. So I have to save 40,000 to get my first home. Where the hell is the money coming from? That's what I want to get to, because that's the questions that stirred in my little anxious head.
So going back to the baby steps, we don't want to go below baby step 3, which is having a 3 to 6 month emergency reserve. But there's a situation where if you, first of all, if you can keep doing your 7% into your 401k or your retirement savings and still save, awesome. But if you absolutely are just stretched and you can't cut out the things that we talked about, which are the needs versus wants, then maybe we need to slow down a little bit for just temporarily. It cannot be long.
Yes.
Because you lose that momentum. You don't want to lose it for too long. Maybe we do slow down a little bit this year on our 401k, but always get your match.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Okay.
If there's a company match, that's free money. You just have to put your number up. So if the company match is 3, you have to at least do sometimes 5 in order to get the 3.
Yep.
You want to at least do that. That's free money.
Never pass it up. Okay.
But
so
maybe don't do the
adjusting
excess. That's going to slowly add up a little bit.
No, that's very helpful. I'm kind of hitting my wrap up too, because I'm like, this is what I heard in my first meeting. This is what I needed to understand. This is what I needed to understand for relationships. And I have one final write in, and I think we can answer it pretty quickly with what
I
we've
remember
talked
what I was
about.
going to say. And then
Go ahead.
Your wedding is for everybody else. I remember somebody told me that sometime. Like, the wedding day is like the best day of your year, but just remember that it's like a party for everybody else. Make it about you, and don't worry about how much you're spending and how elegant it looks. It's one day. You don't need to keep up with the Joneses on your wedding, because it is such a short. It's 24 hours, and it's really for everybody else. It should be about you two, right?
We're gonna do. I need to do a mini update on our wedding and all the DIY stuff that I wanted to do, and how we've created a budget and all these things. But it's I'm never looking at a wedding being like, did they DIY this?
Mm-hmm.
What
And babies,
the hell? If that's your friend, what the hell? Okay, what were you gonna say?
And babies, we've had 3 of them. You just figure it out. They're not really that expensive right away.
Yeah,
they're just,
the food's free, right?
I mean, and
food's
you just
mostly
it's
free.
such
Diapers are a lot.
Slow burn of the buildup of cost that you just end up. Don't worry about starting a family. It's not. And you just figure it out. It's just, you'll just figure it out.
You get into the discomfort and you figure
All right,
it
what's
out.
the last thing? We're way over.
I know. Well, hey, that's okay. We've
No,
got a lot
I know.
to learn.
I'm just saying.
Okay, this one was a marriage and debt one. It says, question, my fiance has $90K student debt where I worked hard to pay for school as I went and now have no debt, own a home, and have significant investments, etc. Not gonna lie, it's tough marrying someone who has slower financial game going on. Rather than buying a big house, as I'd like to do once we're married, I'll be instead helping him with loans for the next several years. I love him, so it's obviously worth it, but it's not easy. Any suggestions on how to navigate?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like a marriage counselor question.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is they said she said husband, right?
They're getting married.
They're getting married. I mean, you're in this for much longer. You're in it for life, right? So I think whatever debt comes with that just becomes a partnership if you're that level of getting married. And the way that I like to think about it is, Sydney and I are at way different ages. I've experienced a lot of stuff she hasn't experienced yet. And in 10, 15 years, things are potentially maybe going to change, and she's going to help me out. I don't know, but there's going to be different points in the relationship where X is helping Y and Y is helping Z, right? It's just kind of the reality and the ebbs and flows. So what looks like it might be all you right now just will most likely even out over the span of time. And there's probably other ways to figure out how to make it a little even, right? I don't want to make this a back and forth game, but if it were me, I'd be hey, I'm helping out significantly with the student loans. you're on trash duty. Like you're doing a lot of this other stuff, right? Because there has to be a give and take.
Equitable.
Fair
and equitable.
For whatever like that's just how my brain works. Everything
Yeah.
needs to be fair and equitable to the point that it can be. And so, if I'm picking up some slack here, like you need to pick up on some slack here that you are more than capable of doing. That's
Yeah, I
what
mean,
would
it's
think.
it's a very common thing. Somebody's going to have, we just talked about this a little bit ago. Someone's going to have more in the relationship and someone's going to come in with less. And assuming you love that person, you're going to figure it out. You're going to bring to the table the finance side of things, and that person's definitely bringing something else to the table. And if they're not, I mean, if there's too many things in your column and not enough things in their column, then
Something to evaluate.
Look at the columns, change the columns, make the columns as equal as possible.
Yeah.
Marriage counselor, possibly lawyer situation, likely financial advisor conversation. So, yeah. Thank you. This was awesome. This is so fun. I forgot how fun it is to go on the mic with you too, by the way.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of a pro now.
He's
every
totally
week
a
I'm
pro.
on the
Oh
mic.
my God.
I want the one that's like right there. You can
Yeah,
just
I
kinda
know how to
sit
talk
back.
to
Sit
the
back.
mic. I know what my voice sounds like now. I used to be really like self-conscious of it. Now I'm just kind of used to it. But like the first time you get on a podcast, it's kind of intimidating
Yeah.
a little bit.
Totally.
And now I'm
I
here.
couldn't even hear my voice for the
year
first-
into doing a golf podcast. I'm like, what are we talking about today? What's
I know.
going on?
Member guest podcast
Throw it at me.
anybody who's here and loves golf. Go listen to Member Guest. That is my
He does a great
fiance's-
job. Highly recommend it. Especially
Yeah,
if
actually,
you
It
like
is
golf.
very good.
Is it good?
It's good.
You like it?
It's really good.
Somebody noticed me at brackets. First, no, definitely not first time, but like less than 10 times.
I love it's always
Somebody's
behind
like,
your
member
head.
guest. And I was like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I love this. I love that. That's cute.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I
It's
love
like just
you
cool to
too.
see him smile and like get excited
Let
about
me
that
give
'cause
you
it's
two
cool.
props real
Okay,
quick.
all
You
right.
guys I love how much go-getters you guys are. You're super coachable. And look at this power couple. You guys both have podcasts. You're just I'm so
She
excited.
inspired me to do the podcast, and I will say it's been a very creative outlet for me. I didn't realize how much I needed a creative outlet.
You
and,
guys
like,
are
something to
creators.
do outside of.
We like to create. It's
That's
fun.
really cool.
Yeah, we like to be, put our foot
is
forward and
fun.
do something different.
And I honestly believe like 10 years from now, this is going to be like the social media, like your footprint of what you put out there. Like social
this
media will
lasts
become
forever.
like videos. It will become, and like if you leave something for your future babies to go back and listen to, be like, man, my dad was actually good at golf. Like he sucks now. It's like, yeah.
What are they going to say about me? I wonder.
She
talks
bunch
a lot.
of great stuff.
Bunch of great stuff.
Bunch of
Can't
great,
even think of
good
one.
things.
I just was searching for a little compliment there. Did you see that? I was like, what are they going to say about me?
You're doing great, babe. You really are.
Anywho, I love that we talked about this. Ryan, thank you so much for
You
coming. I know we
Thank
can't
you.
really shout out where you are at, but finding a local financial advisor quick, how can they do that? Google a best place?
I'm partial to finding a CFP, Certified Financial Planner, mainly because they are held to the fiduciary standard,
Okay,
which is
so CFP.
CFP means, fiduciary standard. I have to do what's in your best interest.
Okay.
Now, most of the financial advisors will do that anyway, but
Yeah.
that's just find a CFP.
I think
Okay.
I would say generally speaking too, I think people can reach out to you and ask for your advice. So like
they could ask
we've
me.
been very like our friends, like Sarah's a realtor,
Yeah.
right? Like you've met Jason at Sixsmith. He helps with like mortgages and loans, and like we know
Mm-hmm.
loan officers, we know financial advisors. Like we got Scott as our tax guy.
Yeah,
you know,
he's the
like
bomb.
we do have
Scotty,
a network
shout
of
out.
people. So
Yeah,
like
Scott is
Scotty.
the best.
if nothing else, if people don't know where to start, just email Sydney, and you are at the point that you are at least able to say, hey, this is who I've done stuff with, and this is kind of like these are people that you should at least go check out their website, and then you can do whatever you want.
I could add that to my website somewhere.
Most
I think.
people though probably also have friends that
you could have
do
like a
this
list
stuff.
of here are my people in all these different
Yeah,
areas.
that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
I should do that. I'm going to create something like
shout
that.
out Scooter.
Your
Shout out
center,
Scooter.
your COI, Center of Influences.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming. This has been
Yeah.
a really good conversation, and Jordan, thanks for being here too, because it just helps to have that banter and like equal understanding of the type of thing we're going through and finances. Crew, wherever you're at in your financial journey, I promise you just have to look at it and really dive into it and be aware of it and get in front of it. Don't let it get behind you. Don't let it be ignored. I did that, and that's when mistakes happen.
It's a shadow you can't outrun.
Yes. So please address it with calmness, because I promise the hole you're in, you can get out. I swear to you, I know it. But you got to listen to the details and make an effort. If you need advice and you didn't write in or you didn't get to call in, 612-470-7569. call me for advice. Some episodes coming up are on breath work. We've got, oh my gosh, I have like parent relationship with parents. That one's going to be really interesting when you become an adult and now you're like equal to your parent and things get a little dicey. There's so many different things coming on. So I will make sure to update you. Give me a call. And anything else, I love you. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here and talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.